Hey, it's Netta, and I'm so excited to tell you that my brand new book, Break Free from Sugar Cravings, is now available for pre-order in ebook format. In other words, when you head on over to Amazon, whatever country you're in, and search for Break Free from Sugar Cravings in the search bar, or just search with my name, Netta Gorman, you'll be able to pre-order the ebook version at a super low price for a limited time. And the paperback version and the audiobook version of Break Free from Sugar Cravings will be available soon. But to get a special price on the ebook version, head on over to Amazon today. Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast. The podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it, and also with food, and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman. And in today's episode, I'm asking the slightly controversial question, which is worse, cholesterol or insulin? And for years we've been told that we need to keep cholesterol low, but what if it's actually healthier to keep insulin low? We'll get to that question in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. And while you're at aftersugarclub.com, why not take the cravings quiz? I created this cravings quiz specifically to help you start thinking more deeply about what triggers your cravings. And when you do this quiz, you'll get your personalized score as well as my practical tips to help you take your first step to get rid of cravings. Those free resources are at aftersugarclub.com. And also, come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. So let's talk about cholesterol and insulin from a layperson's viewpoint. In other words, like me, you may not be a doctor or a health professional or a nutritionist, but just like me, you may have, let's call it, intellectual curiosity and want to know more about the effects of sugar, insulin, and cholesterol. And for years, doctors have told us to make sure that our cholesterol levels, especially LDL, are low. You may have gone one step further and actually looked into the difference between HDL cholesterol, known as good cholesterol, and LDL cholesterol. And you may have already reduced or cut sugar, and you may be feeling better than you have in years. More energy, less brain fog, some weight loss. And then you go to your doctor for a routine checkup, feeling pretty good about yourself. And then your doctor looks at your blood work and says, your LDL cholesterol is too high. We need to talk about statins. And then you panic because you're feeling great. But you can't contradict your doctor, right? Well, this isn't about contradicting your doctor or being some kind of a rebel. It's about educating yourself as a patient so that when your doctor does tell you information, you're well informed enough to be able to receive it and ask the right questions. being well informed is one of the most powerful things we can do as patients. And currently there's a really important conversation happening in the world of metabolic health, and some of it has to do with cholesterol and insulin. In fact, there's a new documentary out that I just watched last weekend called The Cholesterol Code, and it's well worth watching with an open mind. So the story behind this documentary, The Cholesterol Code, is fascinating because it's actually based on one single man, Dave Feldman, who is a software engineer, not a doctor, not a scientist, just a really smart guy who went on a ketogenic diet to avoid progressing to type 2 diabetes. And it worked for him. He felt great. His blood sugar improved, his weight came down. By every measure he could feel, things were going in the right direction. But then he got his blood work back, and his blood work showed that his LDL cholesterol had spiked, and his doctor, like so many other doctors, was alarmed. Because LDL cholesterol has for years been linked to all kinds of health risks, especially blocked arteries leading to stroke or heart attacks. So with that in mind, most people in Dave Feldman's situation would either go back to eating the way they used to, or they'd start taking a statin and not ask too many questions. But Dave is an engineer, and just like teachers, engineers ask questions. So instead of panicking, he started digging. He started running experiments on himself, changing one variable at a time, testing his blood repeatedly, and documenting everything. Everything he ate, all his blood work results, everything. And what he found surprised him enough to make him launch a years-long research project, a website called Cholesterol Code, and now a full documentary featuring some of the biggest names in metabolic health research. And this documentary's tagline is pretty striking. In a world where 92 million Americans take statins, Dave Feldman's health journey questions what the medical establishment thinks they know about cholesterol and raises new questions, which, let's face it, is the actual role of science after all. And it can be pretty uncomfortable to raise questions, let alone new questions, because for the last 50 years or so, we've been told that fat, dietary fat, and cholesterol are the enemy, that eating saturated fat raises your LDL, and that high LDL causes heart disease, and heart disease kills you. It sounds simple and logical, and it was based on lots and lots of scientific studies, and this so-called fact became the foundation of pretty much every dietary guideline since the 1970s. The problem is, as with the methodology of many, many nutrition studies, the problem is that in this case, the science leading to these conclusions is pretty shaky. And the more researchers have dug into the science and the scientific methodology of these scientific studies, the more complicated the picture has become. Here's what we do know. Insulin resistance, which happens when your body has been flooded with sugar and refined carbs for years, is now being identified as one of the most significant drivers of cardiovascular disease. Not LDL cholesterol in isolation, insulin and insulin resistance. I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews, and when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. So just before the break, I was talking about whether it's LDL in isolation or insulin resistance that has been shown to be one of the most significant risk factors for cardiovascular disease. And it turns out that insulin and insulin resistance is far more dangerous than LDL cholesterol, at least from what we know today, because science is changing all the time, and a lot of it depends on who's funding the scientific studies. But what we have found is that when your insulin is chronically elevated, usually because of eating sugary and highly processed foods, this elevated level of insulin triggers inflammation. And it's this chronic inflammation in the walls of your arteries that creates the conditions for plaque in the arteries and a higher risk of heart disease. It's not simply the presence of LDL cholesterol in your blood. In fact, cholesterol is essential to the body, which sounds a bit shocking, but in fact, cholesterol is a fatty substance that your body makes naturally, mostly in your liver, and it's absolutely essential to life. Without it, you wouldn't survive. And I just want to take a minute to explain as a layperson what cholesterol actually is and what it does. Cholesterol is a key building block of every single cell membrane in your body. It's used to produce your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and it helps make cortisol, which manages your stress response. It's also essential for producing vitamin D. And cholesterol is also used to make bile acids, which are what allow you to digest fat. So again, cholesterol is not bad. In fact, you absolutely need it. And like with most things, your body regulates your cholesterol production so carefully that when you eat more of it through food, your liver just produces less. And when you eat less of it, your liver produces more cholesterol. It's a very finely tuned system that has kept us humans alive for thousands of years. And because cholesterol is a type of fat, it can't travel through your bloodstream on its own, because fat and water don't mix, so your body packages it into little protein-coated carriers called lipoproteins. And that's where LDL and HDL come in. You don't have to be a doctor to understand that the letters LDL stand for low-density lipoprotein. LDL is like a delivery truck. It carries cholesterol from your liver out to the rest of your body, to your cells, your tissues, your organs, wherever it's needed. And your body needs this delivery service. So LDL is not inherently bad. It's actually doing an essential job. And HDL stands for high-density lipoprotein. And to simplify, HDL picks up excess cholesterol from your tissues and carries it back to the liver to be recycled or removed. A bit like a garbage truck. This is why high HDL is generally considered a good sign, because it means that your body is doing a good job of clearing up the excess. So what we've been told for so many years, that LDL is bad and HDL is good, is really an oversimplification. What actually matters is not just how much LDL you have, but what kind it is, and crucially, what else is going on in your body at the same time. So what if the problem is the high level of systemic inflammation caused by high levels of insulin and not the cholesterol in what you eat? That's a complete turnaround from everything we've been told in the last 50 or 60 years. And reevaluating what we think we know is one of the biggest challenges, not just for us as patients and citizens, but also for the scientific community because, well, as a teacher, I can tell you that learning new things and especially questioning what we think we already know is really uncomfortable. And the more sure we are of what we think we know, the more uncomfortable it is to question it. But again, that is the central job of science, to question things. So here's the next question. Is high LDL actually dangerous? Or has it been misread without the context of everything else that's going on in the body, including chronically elevated insulin and insulin resistance? And Dave Feldman's research and the work of many experts featured in the Cholesterol Code documentary suggests that for a lot of people, especially those who are metabolically healthy, a higher LDL number on its own is not the whole story. And maybe we've been measuring the wrong things, or at least not measuring enough things to get an accurate picture of cardiovascular risk. And maybe the focus has been put on LDL cholesterol because we have a pill for that. And if we have a pill for that, statins, then there's money to be made from that conclusion that high LDL requires medication. Now, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories. I just think these questions need to be raised and studied. So what does all of this mean specifically and practically for you? If you've reduced sugar and processed foods and your blood sugar is more stable and your pancreas is producing less insulin, great. But if your doctor has come back to you with your blood work and told you that you have high LDL cholesterol, before you panic, do a little digging. Ask your doctor to explain to you what cholesterol is and what LDL cholesterol actually means. And one specific thing to look for in your blood work is if your triglycerides have come down since cutting sugar. If they have, that's a really good sign. And if your HDL has gone up, that's also a good sign. So if less sugar for you has given you more energy, less brain fog, better sleep, and you've lost weight and stabilized your blood sugar, then all of those are really good clues that you're doing something right. But just high levels of LDL is only telling part of the story. So, as a patient, I always like to discuss my results with my doctor and to dig a little deeper about my metabolic health. Now, I know that's easier said than done because my doctor has the white coat, not me. But actually, you may be pleasantly surprised because there definitely are doctors out there who like to look at the full picture and who do understand insulin resistance and are willing to deal with patient resistance. In other words, with patients who actually are interested in their own health and who want to know more about their results. So if there is no dialogue with your doctor and all he or she does is to hand you a prescription for statins, then maybe as a patient, the next step is up to you. And sometimes this is really difficult to do on your own, which is exactly why the guidance and support and accountability you get in my Freedom from Cravings formula program is so important because I created this program specifically for women over 50 to help you go deeper into your relationship with food, especially sugar, and also into your relationship with yourself. And so that you can get guidance and support to help you stop emotional eating, break free from sugar cravings, slim down, and feel more in control around food, and more empowered to know about your own body and your own health. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed so that you can live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly, feel confident in your food choices, and ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never have to feel like you're on some kind of restrictive diet. By the time you're 50 and over, you've spent decades looking after everybody else. And now it's your turn to take care of yourself. So let's chat about your specific needs and why you want to break free from cravings. You'll find the link to book a free video chat with me with this episode in the show notes. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.